So how about the YanYin Canon Pro? It's an EM sold by Linsol and it's part of the Chifi collection of EMs. It's a base EM and priced at $399 US. So why did I consider this to be a final EM that I would use every single day? How did it come to be? So I started by using the Sennheiser EA900 quite a lot. I like that a lot. It's a very practical EM with a good sound. But at some point I realized that Sennheiser EA900 can get fatiguing after a while. So I decided to experiment a bit, and that's how I discovered the YanYin Canon Pro. I actually upgraded from it quite quickly because I discovered the Moritz Enzo, which is even more basshead. I wanted a very basshead EM, but YanYin Canon Pro actually appealed to me a lot. That's because it's basshead, it's pretty natural in the mid-range, and it has a very clean sound. So it has everything that audiophiles typically look for. Does it have any disadvantage, you may wonder? Actually, it does have a few drawbacks, but they are not inherent to the YanYin Canon Pro. By itself, it's absolutely brilliant. The problem with it is that other more basshead EMs exist, especially in a very similar price range. Although Moritz Enzo, which I use on a daily basis, also the Unique Melody Mest Jack Black, which I also use on a daily basis, are both in a much higher price category. So YanYin Canon Pro, sold and fulfilled by Linsol, actually has competition in the Martillo from Punch Audio. The Punch Audio Martillo is in a pretty similar price category. They are also direct competitors because both are trying to be basshead EMs. And I remember that I talked with Linsol quite a bit about how does it have the number of the drivers it has. So it has one dynamic driver plus 6 balanced armatures, 7 drivers. And on most websites, it is quoted to have 8 drivers. And I don't know how. YanYin Canon Pro comes with a 3D printed resin shell. It has 4 electronic crossovers, and if that's not overkill, I don't know what is. And it has 4 physical ducts for the sound. The idea is that the more physical ducts you have, the better it is for the sound quality because it allows the driver sound to remain separated, which actually results in better instrument separation, better layering, and better imaging for your sound. It is not the most sensitive of EMs at 104 decibels, but it has a pretty low impedance of 18 ohms. In actual practice, it is pretty easy to drive, pretty practical, and pretty fun. It has a promised passive noise isolation of 26 decibels, which is close to the 20 decibels that I noticed. It can drop down to 15 if you judge it right where it doesn't isolate so well, which is the type of sounds, so very fast bassy sounds, or if you consider its isolation for a very mid-centric sound, for example, a crying baby in an airplane. It actually does a better job at isolating you from high-pitched sounds like that kind of sound is pretty well isolated. YanYin Canon Pro has a very natural mid-range. Usually YanYin EMs have, and most of them are basshead. For example, we also had the YanYin Carmen, which was extremely bassy, and Canon Pro is actually superior to the YanYin Carmen in the perceived resolution. YanYin Carmen has a better actual resolution, but YanYin Canon Pro allows you and reveals that resolution better. With Carmen, you just don't hear that resolution that much. You actually notice that resolution much more with the YanYin Canon Pro because of its signature, more natural signature, warmer, smoother, and more complete. YanYin Carmen just rolled off the entire treble, it increased the entire bass, which created a pretty unbalanced signature that doesn't really reveal its actual resolution that well. YanYin Canon Pro, it's fun, is one of the EMs that allows you to just enjoy music, very natural in the mid-range, as I said. It has competition right from the start from Linsol, and it's mainly sold and fulfilled by Linsol. Linsol does a good job at promoting and helping those EMs reach the Western market. I remember calling the written review that YanYin Canon Pro has a thunderous stamp, which I still agree with. It has a thunderous stamp, and it has competition from Zigat Arcanis, which is in a pretty similar price range, also $399. Arcanis is a more balanced, more neutral and bright sounding EM, which is good. Some people want that, some people want more neutrality and better transparency, while other people would appreciate the basshead nature of the YanYin Canon Pro. We also have in the same price range the SimGot EM10, which has a warm sound and is pretty similar to the YanYin Canon Pro. Both of them are comfortable, both of them are pretty similar. You should choose based on the one that you like the looks of better. So another thing that the YanYin Canon Pro does really well is having a really rich and satisfying mid-range. This is why I spend so much time with it. It has those fuller, more natural textures, but they just sound satisfying. They just sound thumpy, explosive, without any hard edges. Amongst most of the EMs that I tested from Linsol, YanYin Canon Pro has one of the richest and more mature, most refined texture rendering styles. It just renders textures in a rich, satisfying way. I think that YanYin Canon Pro is one of the better EMs if you want to have a high degree of satisfaction, but you don't want any kind of fatigue or stress. It's super nice in that aspect. The picking range of the treble is between 11 kilohertz and 14 kilohertz, so it has more of a V-shaped signature, which means that you have both an emphasized bass and also an emphasized treble. When you get this type of bassy sound with a bit of extra treble, it just ends up sounding quite engaging and quite revealing. It's super nice. I think that YanYin Canon Pro is great for rock, for metal, for EDM, for commercial music, everything that I typically listen to. Maybe it doesn't work quite that well for, let's say, classical music, because although it has rich textures, it doesn't have a mid-centric or a strongly vocal sound, which means that most instruments are tuned a bit lower than they would typically be. You hear more bass, more impact, and you hear more shimmer and air and treble sparkle, then you hear voices. So for classical music, you need more of a mid-centric sound. There are quite a few. But for commercial music, it's superb, and I fully recommend the YanYin Canon Pro if you tend to listen to quite a bit of commercial new music, if you tend to listen to quite a bit of EDM, pop, and other, let's say, contemporary styles of music. So at the end of the day, I fully recommend the YanYin Canon Pro, but do check out my full written review about it. Do check out my full written review and the video review about the Punch Audio Martillo, because it is a direct competitor, not quite as V-shaped, not quite as balanced, but more bassed. So if you are looking for a bassed EDM, maybe Martillo would be a better choice. Thank you so much for watching. I hope that you will remember to subscribe to Audiophile-Heaven, like this video, and I hope we see each other in the next one. Thank you so much for watching once again, and see each other really soon. Bye!